Hi, my name's Stephen Cosgrove, and over the years I've written a lot of books, 350 or so. Most of them children's books, picture books, some young adult, some scary, some not. But of those, probably one book stands out in my mind, probably stronger than any of the others. And that was a book I wrote and continue to write called Song of the Sea, SOS, the book. It's a complicated story because it deals with the history of the world as told by a white whale by the name of Harmony. And the book is broken down into three sections. The first section is told by Harmony in him telling of the tale of the Song of the Sea. The second section is told by a group of dolphins, of which is Laughter Ring, and she carries on the narration. And the final section is told by a deaf marine biologist who the dolphins and the whales called Sharing. The book starts kind of in an odd fashion because I need to present a glossary of terms to give you a feeling or a head start and to draw you into a narration that's suddenly going to be done by a whale whose vernacular is not the same as ours. And there's some terms that are very important. And these are, very simply put, the deep, which is all the waters below the surface of the sea; waters of life, all the salt waters that make up the oceans of the world; the dry side, which is the land above and beyond the sea, where we live; the feathered furies, an assortment of aquatic birds, especially seagulls and pelicans that scavenge for their food; flipper fins, seals, sea lions, walruses, and others, brethren to the whale, who all speak; golden light, the light of day; silver side, the dark of night; pod, a group or gathering of whales bonded by community. Very important. Sandwalkers, man, that's us. Shell sharks, all forms of boats and ships that carry sandwalkers on the surface of the deep. Squiggle fins, octopus and squid. The tides, a shifting of the sea and most importantly, measurement of time. Two tides equal one day. The Song of the Sea, the history and the history of all that has happened since the beginning. Song of the Sea. And it begins this way. As this was the end, so it is the beginning. I float, I gently swim, I have nowhere to go. I am everywhere I should be. I am enigma. I am empty, yet filled with the singing of the final song of the sea. I am memory waiting for that one last thought before I too will be forgotten. I am called Harmony. I am a great white whale. My tears mingle with the waters of life. I grieve, for I am the last living whale of my pod. All others are dead and gone. My family is dead. My friends are dead. My enemy is dead. Yet I must live. The rules of the Song of the Sea are never to be broken. It was by those rules and in defense of those rules that all of the whales of my pod willingly died. In protest of this waste, this horrible, wicked waste of their lives, I chose to live. I will sing the song over and over and over so that all the brethren of the sea will be wrapped in its wonder and its strength, and they learn that they need not die. This then is my singing of the Song of the Sea. I was born some 7,500 tides ago in a time when the waters of life seemed mirror smooth. Before my birth, in the first moments of consciousness, I remember laying still in the darkness. My sanctuary, the womb, was full of life and storm of life. I could hear no sound but the beating of two hearts, mine and she who was everything. There was a singleness in the two of us, my mother and I, a bond I assumed that would never be broken. And then, in a burst of bubbles and an explosion of light, I was thrust into the world. Spinning round and round, I felt a horrible, terrible, wrenching pain, as agony as the cord of life snapped, and I was alone for the first time and forevermore. I screamed, but as the waters of life gently washed me clean, I gained my senses and began to look around. Lo, what a world! It moved. It surged, it washed and gurgled about me. It was quiet, it was cool, yet it was warm. It was all things in opposition. It was paradox. It was the sea, the beginning, the end. The light, the golden light danced upon the waves above me as an expanse of blue stretched from one side of the horizon to the other, with strange bits of white fluff and foam hanging there, suspended, waiting for a breeze to carry them to some distant place. The world I lay upon turned me this way and that, and everywhere I looked, all was the same, yet different. Bright light blue, stark bright white, and gently the world breathed upon me as I saw all that I could see. And the story goes on from there as Harmony begins to discover what life is like and begins to experience things as a young whale in the waters. The next golden light and the next I hunted the seas, becoming more and more independent of all those things that my mother provided. And soon I began to hunt with the others my age, and together we found sweet fishes to fill our bellies. One day we were joined by the great bellower, the bully Cacophony. "You bits of stick only search for minnows and clacker claws," he sang in his racking voice. "I do not eat 100 tiny fish in order to make a meal. I eat but one that fills me full. Come with me and I'll show you how to find the bigger fish." And with that, he haughtily swam into the murk of the deep, assuming correctly that we would meekly follow. Now, I don't think that Cacophony had really hunted bigger fishes in the sea, but he'd opened his big mouth and now he had to see what would swim in. We passed many group of sweet-meated fish, tuna tail, bug-eye, and flat-tail. Cacophony disdained them as being too small. We dove and we searched with this great hunter of the sea. Soon before us was a large, sleek fish that circled icily in the water. His snout was nearly pointed, and his large, arcing fin traced a trail above on the surface of the sea. "You know," I sang nervously, "it seems to me that my mother did sing to me about this fellow creature from the sea. Mother sang about the sharp fin once. The sharper the fin, the sharper the teeth, the sharper the teeth, the greater the appetite. The greater the appetite, the greater the chance the meal may be turned to make a meal of you." "Oh, that's carp bile," Cacophony sang cockily off tune. "This long-finned fish shall be my meal." And with that, he began his attack. There was no finesse, no circling to confuse his prey. Cacophony charged straight at this steely-eyed fish, who didn't run like the other fishes. This fish just stared stupidly as the large whale attacked. But the finned fish was not so stupid as he was arrogant. Cacophony swam closer, his jaws extended, hopefully to kill this fish with one great bite. But as he drew down, the fish turned and seemed to smile. This fish didn't wish to be eaten. The attacker soon became the attacked, as this slick-skinned serpent snaked about and opened his mouth. Rows upon rows of glistening, white, jagged teeth lined his upper and lower jaws. He was quicker than quick and sliced by Cacophony in a flash of light. The first time he missed and Cacophony realized the errors of his ways, turned to escape, but this finned devil slid silkily by, slicing a cut from Cacophony's mouth to his eye. The water filled with red-brown sweetness, and without fear of consequence, we rushed to the rescue. I'm sure it was not by design that we saved Cacophony. It was more surprise than fear that the sharp fin shocked the sharp fin from his meal as we charged. He saucily twisted his tail and, without concern, as if nothing had happened at all, slipped into the deep. We gathered protectively about Cacophony as we swam back to the main body of the pod, lest the sharp fin return, but we were again alone in the sea. The older whale sang nothing. I'm filled as he was filled with fear and shock. As we swam, the stinging, salty waters of life cured the cut and the bleeding stopped. When we arrived at the shadowy shapes of the pod, Cacophony twisted from the protection of the center of our group and surged free. "Why did you stop it?" he bellowed. I was just letting it attack to get closer. "You jellyfish ruined my hunt." and without he plowed away from our midst and swang away from the pod to sulk. We couldn't help at first being shocked by our sudden change from heroes to hinderers, but I think all of us realized that this was Cacophony's only way of thanking us for saving him from a slashing death. None of us ever spoke again, though it was recorded forever in the Song of the Sea. Over and over, the sandwalkers really destroy and work on messing up the seas. And we've watched that. We see that daily in the news about garbage being thrown into the sea and overfisheries and the killing of dolphins and whales. And all of this is recorded in the Song of the Sea and becomes, a real problem for the whales and the dolphins, especially the pod of whales, as they try to reason within this to find some way to protest. And finally, in protest, the pod chooses to beach itself en masse on the dry side. Suicide. Only Harmony is left to record the final verse, and when it is over, all the whales are dead, he reflects. I paused in my grief and stared with great unblinking eyes at the shore that was now strewn with the bodies, the hulks of all that I had loved and come to know. How long I lay there, I do not know. I felt myself at some other time being pressed back to the sea by the strange sandwalkers, but I cared not, idly floating and allowing the waves to move me about the shore. Now I too had reason to die, for I had no reason to live. The song that had changed with the singing was a flat, buzzing sound of memory only. It was then that all around me faded from black and cooler grays. I remembered nothing, for tide or tides, I know not which. I stirred as one waking from a frightful sleep, and I stretched my body and ached. I looked around and found that I was close to the breakers, but a short way from the shore. I listened, but there was no song. I knew that I had hoped, I had dreamed, was real. I was alone with the memory of the Song of the Sea, the memory of all that is holy, the memory. The pod was dead. Finally, one crystal tide as the golden light crept over the edge of the sea, I began to sing. The narwhal are wrong. Death is silent and stupid protest. The narwhal hide within their frozen crystal walls and give gifts of hate to any whale who happens by, and one by one the whale is disappearing. The narwhal could do better if they gave their twisted horns to the sandwalker so that they could kill even more of us in the seas. They must be stopped, and a new song must be sung. Not a song sung by a single pod of whale here and there, but all in one massive chorus. All the new song will be not just sung by just the whale, but all of the brethren, the dolphins and the flipperfin. All must learn to sing the same song, and united the void of all shall be strong. For I have a plan. I have a simple plan that will put an end to the sandwalker. As all that is right within the world is intended, when the sandwalkers were cast upon the dry side, I shall call a conclave, the greatest meeting of the brethren of the sea. There shall we sing. There shall be the beginning, the end of the sandwalker forever. Go now, my friends, call your group of dolphins together, and each one of you, the group that shall to another group to tell of the conclave. Call to the flipperfin and the great back whale. Call to the blue and the bowhead. We shall all meet in 500 tides near the crystal walls of the narwhal of the Horn, Alaska. And it's here there's a pause in the books, and we're introduced to the dolphins, and they begin to sing the songs. Laughter Ring tells the stories. They search about and they try to reach everybody to tell them there's about to be a big trial, the conclave. And it's here also that we are introduced to a deaf marine biologist, Sharon Goodwin, who the dolphins call Sharing. She discovers that the whales and dolphins have an amazingly sophisticated language. They speak and they understand. And through a multiple of chapters, she learns of the Song of the Sea and that a conclave, the trial, has been called. The trial of the sandwalkers, mankind. Dr. Goodwin travels to Alaska, wherein the trial is to take place. It is there that the dolphins ascribe the trial being conducted beneath the sea to Sharing. There is a great debate and raging beneath us even as we speak, she toned. Harmony called the conclave, but the narwhal of the horn are trying to establish rules to ensure their control. Harmony is wise to the narwhal's twisted sense of fair play, and with our help has created his own alliance with the blues, the humpbacks, and the dolphins. He has enough to control the conclave with the support of the dolphins alone, but he felt he needed a mandate. The decisions here will be hard, and the results will be far-reaching. I paused to digest the fact that politics was universal in our world of twisting values and philosophies. Not only us, mankind, and the sandwalker, but even the whale. You say the decisions will be far-reaching. Far-reaching to what extent and to whom? I asked tentatively, sure that I already knew the answer. Laughter Ring turned her eyes downward and vibrantly toned, for eternity the decision will affect the sandwalker and all his children's children. Then I claim the right to speak for the sandwalker and to sing his defense. I gambled somewhere that the Song of the Sea was a rule or value that allowed the accused to present his own case. I sat in the boat defiantly, feeling like a drowned rat. Little brother turned to Laughter Ring and said, I do not know that song that well, but I will go take her message to Harmony. If he wins the mandate, if not, he will have to put the question to the narwhal of the horn. And though it was very late in the day, the sun still burned in the sky, adding a twisted, dreamlike quality to an already crazy day. As we waited, the sun dried our clothes and the chills dissipated. In 15-minute intervals, I opened the tourniquet on Peter's leg, allowing the blood to circulate in hopes of avoiding complications. The waters around us teemed with life. The sea snapped with anticipation, and ever so often Little Brother, or Laughter Ring, the dolphins, would slip off the side of the boat to seek news of the debate, and each time they returned shaking their heads in dismay. Nearly an hour later, Laughter Ring went to seek news. It wasn't before a minute before she leaped back to the boat. Harmony will have his way. The narwhal of the horn are very, very angry. Godwin, the Avenger, their choirmaster, proclaimed that the conclave canceled, and Beer urged everyone to leave, but none would. Now they are bound by the conclave and in great import. The narwhal have remained, but they are still very dangerous indeed. Watch them. But what of my demand for defense? I waved angrily, caring not for the petty politics of dissent. Laughter Ring paused. Well, at first Harmony said no and dove to the deeps, but moments later he rose and acquiesced. No matter his prejudice to the sandwalker, he is honor-bound by his duty to the Song of the Sea to listen to all. For you see, many, many tides ago he was a scribe, a dispassionate recorder of the sea. His pod, an old group of great whale, with song nearly as old as the song of itself, died the 1,000 deaths of the sandwalkers. They beached themselves. And with that death came the death of his greatest love and his greatest enemy. He believes the sandwalker killed his family and his friends and his enemy, if not by deed, then by intent. He was lost without them and tried to cast himself upon the dry side to die and protest himself. The song of the sea echoes within his empty soul, and his blood is on fire as he seeks the final answer to the final question. He has now proclaimed you as the leader of the sandwalker, the symbol of all the dry side, near this sea and throughout the dry side all over the world. In relief, I laughed, but in anxiety, I signed, I have just been made queen of the dry side earth? Laughter Ring shook her head gravely. This is no laughing matter. Whatever happens here will reach far into the future, for all the tides that remain in the waters of life. Here you will speak for the sandwalker. You will be the first to hear the decision. You'll be first to suffer the punishment, if indeed punishment is rendered. And so the book continues and ends, which you'll have to read in order to find out. I had fun writing this book, and it really kind of stumbled upon me back many, many years ago. And it was in Dallas, Texas. And as I was eating supper in my room, I watched a newscast wherein they talked about the whales beaching themselves. And I questioned it then as I wondered why. Why would they do this? And in my writer's mind, I always want to try to rationalize things. And so my rationale was this: the Song of the Sea. So if you read the book, which I hope you do, and you have questions or answers, you can always write to me at stephencosgrove.com or reach me there at any time. And if you're writing a project and you need some help with a story, or you personally are trying to get published, write to me. I'll give you a hand. I love to mentor young writers. I especially like to encourage people to read. And so it's me in my studio, and I'll say goodbye for now. Thanks.